don't deny there's some strange evolutionary process going on. But mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here today is evidence of that.
Hey, how we doing, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday, March 25th, broadcasting to you guys here from the DCF studio here on the south side of Chicago. Let's go ahead and say hello to some people here in the chat. Hey, Kevin, Evett, Kit, Doggin, Jonathan, great to see you guys coming to hang out with us. Let's go ahead and let some people pile in. Make sure we are sounding good today. Always got to do a sound check anytime you hop on live because you never know what's going to happen with technology sometimes. But on my end, looks like we are good over here. It was a great week. Last week, we announced our course, the DCF Experience, our second time hosting it. The sequel, we posted that video last Thursday. Course registration began on Friday, and we sold out in 4 days. Hard to believe. I am just overly feeling the love from something like that. To sell out a course to 15 people in a matter of 4 days is absolutely crazy. For people to trust you and want to come, out of their way to visit you in your city for an entire weekend is incredible. And I'm so excited, and we're just over a month away. It's going to be the 22nd through the 24th here in Chicago, and like any great sequel, it's going to be just bigger and better than our first one, and we've been pouring a lot into it. And the feedback that we got on the video was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's crazy. I think it was only like a 2-minute and 16-second video, I want to say, which is crazy because that video took me probably like 50 hours to edit for 2 minutes and 16 seconds just because of all the sound design, all the color grading, all of that type of stuff. And I'm not even talking about the filming. We went and filmed stuff downtown. I had to hire voiceover actors for some of that. So it's crazy how much goes into to video stuff sometimes. But we also this week announced that we are hosting and celebrating hitting 200,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Thank you guys for that one. We are going to be hosting another design challenge where you guys create the design and then I try to bring it to life. So we did this. This is how we celebrated 100K subscribers here on YouTube, and that was almost 2 years ago. And we had about 200 entries, and they were all phenomenal. And we ended up picking OCD Custom, who's now Overly Chromatic, is her name over on Instagram. She came up with this beautiful Madagascar sunset moth Jordan 1 design, and it was super cool bringing those to life. So I am pumped to see what you guys cook up, because the way you design, as you start to, the longer you do this and the more mock-ups you do, you start to sort of limit yourself in a way with your mock-ups because okay, I need to know how I'm going to paint this. So you wouldn't necessarily put something in the mock-up that you have no idea how you would paint, per se. You know what I mean? Unless you were trying to challenge yourself intentionally, of course. But a lot of times the way your mock-ups go, you typically tend to lean towards things that you like to do when it comes to painting and whatnot. So to have somebody else do it and then taking on the challenge of me trying to bring it to life is harder than I thought it would be. It was definitely a challenge last time. So we have that file, that template is down in the description of this video if you guys are interested in participating in that. I also created a Photoshop file which works with Procreate or Photoshop, and it has all of the layers. Everything's already on separate panels. So go ahead and check that out, and feel free to use whatever other software you want. A few people reached out and said they don't really particularly do digital design stuff. Is it okay if they print it out and do their design work on top? That's totally fine too, if you prefer that method. But it's if you're not somebody who does a lot of digital design, you know what I mean? Maybe you're not, you never took a Photoshop class or anything like that. If you have never taken any type of graphic design class or anything like that, maybe you don't consider yourself that strong in digital design, even just getting Procreate for the first time. If you have an iPad, I don't believe it's available on, it's only like an Apple app on the App Store. It's very easy to get started in Procreate. Yeah, there's a lot to it, and it can be, you can take it to some incredible levels, but it has a very, very basic feel to it, and that you can, it's literally just a digital coloring book in a way, and you get to select what type of, it's so cool because, you know, there's all these different tools that it has. You can select, oh, I want it to look like I'm airbrushing. I want it to look like I'm, you know, a pencil sketch. There's so much you can do with it. It's a really great app. So let's see what you guys are saying here in the chat. I saw a question, I believe it was from Evit, saying, quick question, can you show us how to use a stencil with brush? Because I can't afford an airbrush. So if you're talking about like, you know, airbrush, like kind of texture stencils and things like that, the reason those work so much better with an airbrush than with a paintbrush is because typically you're going for that very feathered off type of design. You know what I mean? So if you're doing like a snakeskin pattern, you're not necessarily just trying to paint the entire pattern. Sometimes you're just trying to almost ghost in a small portion to create just a little bit of texture, and you want those edges to just naturally fall off. And that's what you get with airbrushing rather than with a paintbrush. So, you know, a lot of people ask me, can you use a paintbrush with airbrush stencils? And they're not designed to do it, but if you are very strong at blending with a paintbrush, you might be able to get by, but they're definitely designed to work with an airbrush. And something else that can happen with a paintbrush is you might not get the exact texture you're going for because some of the paint might actually leak under the stencil, sort of the lines of the stencil, the negative portion of the stencil, because more paint is applied with a paintbrush than with an airbrush. So, Matthew, how you doing, buddy? Haven't seen you in a while, man. Hope you're doing good. I have not seen you in one of our in lives in quite a bit, bud. Let's see here. Raw Rap Euro Dixon says, would you recommend Procreate over Photoshop? I think it really just comes down to like, what is your background in terms of technology, graphic design? If you have absolutely no background in like computer programs and stuff, I would probably go the Procreate route. It's easier to just get started. But if you're very familiar with, you know, you do a lot of kind of computer apps, whether that's, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind is some of the other Adobe apps, but a lot of people tend to start with Photoshop. I was lucky that I had to take a Photoshop class in college when I went to architecture school. So I learned kind of the basics there and then would watch a lot of YouTube tutorials to learn more complex things. But if you have no background in it, I think the first time you open Photoshop, it can be a little overwhelming. Whereas if you just open Procreate, you can literally just start coloring and drawing right away. It's just like a coloring book, basically, but digital, and it has more tools. So, Evit, so does that mean no paintbrush with stencils? Sorry, couldn't hear you well. Let me know if you guys are able to hear me good. I didn't hear too many people in the chat saying. It looks good on my end, all the levels and everything. Otherwise, Evit, I'd scroll back a couple minutes because I gave a pretty good detailed answer there, so. Matthew says, hey, D, yeah, it's been a rough and weird couple of years. I'm glad I could finally make one again. Well, good to see you here, man. Hopefully you're doing well, and hopefully, you know, things are back on the rise for you, bud. It's been a weird couple of years for everybody, that's for sure. Vu Win says, can someone give me an idea for my next custom slide? Vu, we just did 2 videos over the last couple of months, and they were both called like 20 design ideas for your next custom shoe. So there's 2 videos that have 20 ideas. So in total, there's 40 ideas across these 2 videos of all these cool themes and concepts that you could do. So go ahead and check those out. There's something for everybody on there for sure. Some really good questions here today. Let's go ahead and see. Jerome Johnson says, what causes paint to peel when removing tape? It could be a couple of things, Jerome. It could be the tape. You know what I mean? You might be using too strong a tape. The other thing that it most likely is an issue of the paint isn't really bonding with the surface. Now, that could be due to a lack of prep work. That could be due to too thick of paint coats, or that could be due to not enough dry time in between coats. Those are probably going to be your three main factors. Dry time, the amount of paint that you're applying on your coats, you don't want to overdo it. You want to do nice thin coats, and proper prep work. And once you have those things locked down, you won't deal with any tape peeling. Let's see. Raw Rap says, yeah, okay, I've been using Photoshop just because I've noticed your videos on Photoshop usage from Mox. Thank you. Yeah, I prefer Photoshop just because I feel like I can do more because I haven't, like the amount of hours I've spent lifetime doing Photoshop is 1,000 times the amount of hours I've spent lifetime using Procreate. So if I just need to do something fast, it's like I know my way around Photoshop like the back of my hand. Whereas Procreate, it's probably more fun to do, but I still, you know what I mean? It's not as streamlined of a path for me. I still have to like kind of figure things out. I don't have an incredibly established workflow. I'm curious, do you guys prefer Photoshop or Procreate more? Let me know in the chat. I asked this in our video that we posted the other day because, I haven't posted like a really good detailed design tutorial in either of those softwares, Photoshop or Procreate, in a couple of years, actually. So, I want to do another long format one. Speaking of long format tutorials, though, we have one of my all-time favorite tutorials for sure is going to be coming. I want to say within the next month, maybe the next 4 to 6 weeks, and it's going to be a tutorial on multi-layer stencils. And this thing is going to be detailed because I'm doing one of the old school Detroit Pistons logos. And yeah, I think that we posted a multi-layer stencil video I think in January of 2020, so over 2 years ago. And that's a really good detailed tutorial too. But this one, I'm going to explain things even further. And I've even learned some more tips on multi-layer stencils over the past couple of years. Some things that have made it a whole lot easier and made, my multi-layer stencil work even better. So excited for that one. Vu says, can you do a color gradient on shoe in Procreate? Absolutely. Yeah, super easily. Daniel says, now that I'm used to it, I prefer Procreate with the Apple Pencil. Yeah, I think that it just has like it just has a fun feel to use. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like that it just feels like such a blank canvas. There's so much you could possibly do. I mean, I think when you download Procreate for the first time, and you get to see some of the like preloaded artist drawings that are in Procreate, you think like, is that a photograph? Did they actually make that in Procreate? And then you open it up and you zoom in and you're like, what on earth? How could somebody do that in Procreate? It's so cool. But then when you zoom in, you're like, yeah, this actually is a digital drawing. It's insane what people can do. Jerome says, can you record your upcoming course for YouTube? So there essentially wouldn't really be a way to do. It's 3 days, 8 hours a day. So that would be 24 hours. There's no real way for us to, we could potentially like live stream it, but that's not what we want to do because we want the beautiful part about the course and why it is what it is and why we want to turn it into what it's going to be is it's all about the experience of actually being there. So there will absolutely be a recap video. We've already hired a videographer for that. Really excited about that one because I think that will be the first video on our YouTube that will be filmed by like literally a separate videographer other than like me filming or Jason filming the couple hundreds of videos that he did. So that's going to be like, we've already hired an outside videographer. So I'm super excited for that one, but it's going to also feel very weird. And that at that point will probably be around 250 videos or something like that. And that'll be the first one that I won't particularly be touching. That's sort of my goal. I feel so often I'm I'm almost too hands-on in that like I want to put my hands on everything, but for this one I'm really excited to like let somebody else take the vision, because I know when it comes to like video work and just working with, Jason over the years, that sometimes you got to be a little bit more hands off and let somebody else bring their vision to life. So yep. Let's see here. Superman Lover says, when painting sock liners or cloth material, it never seems to take right. What am I doing wrong? Are you airbrushing or hand painting? Because if you're hand painting, making the switch to airbrushing will make a huge difference. If you are airbrushing and it's still not taking, let me know what you might mean. And maybe you mean that it's coming out a little bit too thick, or not too thick. It's still coming out a little bit too stiff. You might need a little bit more heat setting still. Abion Torres says, hey, I just started customizing. I'm customizing black Air Forces now. Should I still paint down light gray before I paint a color like orange on it? Painting with a paintbrush. Yes, I think that like light gray is a great base coat. Like ideally in a hypothetical world, you would paint white on top of an Air Force One, but white paint is so thin that you would end up doing 6 coats of white paint before it even looked remotely anywhere near white, and it still wouldn't be that white. And then you would have to put an additional like 4 coats of orange on top. Now all of a sudden you've done 10 coats of paint to get an orange upper, and that's just far too many coats. But if you do the light gray, you're going to have a nice light gray color in about 2 coats. Then I'd probably recommend doing another coat of like mist, which would be, like half light gray, half white, something right in between. Then now you have like this nice, really kind of grayish white, but you could build orange on top of that, probably in 3 to 4 coats. So you can get in and out, and, 6 coats is usually about as far as you want to take it. Maybe 7 for something like that, if you're working on a pair of black Air Force Ones. If we're talking about like durability here, you know what I mean? If it's just a display piece and all that, it's a little bit different. But if we're talking about actual durability, you really don't want to go past 6 coats. So you need to really nail down that concept of having like strong base coats. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Rupsy, are we going for pizza? Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll go back to Pequods. I think because for the course, I think Brittany's already laid out the catering menu, and I think we're going with Lou Malnati's for pizza, either the first or second night. But when you get here on Thursday or whatever, we'll for sure go back to Pequods, man. Because Luminati's is kind of the more general, can please everybody, whereas Pequods it may not be up everybody's alley, but for the people it is, it's top echelon stuff. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Did you get a chance last time we ordered Lou Malnati's on, I think, the first day? I know we went out to pizza the night before, but did you have pizza at the course too? I think you did. But I remember you definitely loved Pequods. And how could you not? How could you not? Doc Flu Customs here says, when doing a multi-layer stencil, do you order your colors in a certain way? Yes. I think the best way to explain this would be through an example. So let me go ahead and I don't have my hard drive connected here. So let me pull up. Let me see what I have on my phone footage-wise. Okay, cool. I do. I have a time lapse of the multi-layer stencil. Let's see here. iPhone plugged in but not showing. Let's see. Properties, iPhone. Let's see. Okay, we are in business here. So, I have a pair of Jordan 3s. And I painted the upper that teal color to match the jerseys. So when you're doing a multi-layer stencil, the first thing that I like to do is, if you already have your background color is going to be a color in your multi-layer stencil, do that first. So the piston stencil, although, let me go ahead and pull that up. Let's see here. Shot. Okay. Let me find Piston's old logo. Okay. So, if we take a look at the Piston's old logo here, although that teal isn't necessarily like the dominant color, it's still a color in there, so that should be the first color of your multi-layer stencil, and then you can cover that up. So, let me see here. I wish I could make this full screen, but I don't have my hard drive connected. So, if we take a look at, and it's hard for me to slow this down, but here we have the teal background. Once I lay down the basic silhouette of the logo, my next step is to, since I do like texture stencils in the background, I then need to paint a coat of solid teal. But if you just had a solid teal background, you could cover that up. So my first stencil that I laid down then is all of the portions of the logo that I want to stay teal. And then I build right on top of there, moving into, I painted like a light gray kind of mist color here because I knew I was moving into, I then painted white because I knew, since I had that teal color there, for any of my other colors to pop like yellow or red, I'm going to need to have like a nice light kind of mist color to get those colors to really pop. So once I paint those here, once I paint white, then I can cover up all the portions of the stencil that I want to stay white. And then now I can build some of the other colors on top. Your yellow, I think I do red after that. Then I think I do gray, and then black is the last color. And then peel it all back there. So yeah, that's gonna be it. That's gonna be a good, long, detailed video for me breaking all that down. And I'm gonna try to break down a couple different examples because it will really depend on sometimes a logo by logo basis, but there will be some basic sort of principles and rules that will work in almost all cases, you know? So yeah. Let's see here. Ba-ba-ba. Yes, send these as to him. Jacob Riedel here says, lately I have been struggling with my paint cracking on my custom shoes. I am doing all the correct prep steps, and I think the problem is my finisher. Do you wear custom shoes? Absolutely. I would probably, I'm trying to read some of the responses that people have already given you. I use 5 coats, about 30 minutes of dry time. I also hand paint. The problem might be the type of leather Nike, Ebron, and Lowe's have, and the finisher I use. Let's see. And it was sticky and caused the paint there. It was like acid here. Fairly thin coats. There is a chance that, you know, that being one of Nike's cheaper shoes, that it's just like a really cheap leather. I'm not sure if that's a tumbled leather or if that's a smooth leather. Tumbled leather, you're even more likely to get some of that cracking. I typically don't believe that it's ever the finisher's fault if your shoes are cracking, if your shoes got scuffed, if you had little paint chips here and there. maybe the finisher could have an impact. But if we're talking about cracking on the toe box, that has nothing to do with your finisher, in my opinion, because the finisher, for the most part, is really just controlling the sheen. It's really not like it's not a glue holding the artwork in place per se. It says that you're using a 2X clear matte finisher in a spray can from Walmart. Now, there's a good chance that maybe that finisher is being applied a little bit too thick, and that's sort of cracking, but, you know, that finisher wouldn't necessarily cause the paint to crack. So I'm not sure if you mentioned your prep work. I'm not sure I saw what you're doing for prep. Let me know, Jacob. We'll go from there. Could you possibly do another video going over the airbrush technique you used in the video titled Simple But Effective Trick from 3 years ago? I'm trying to think of what video that is. What trick am I showing in that video? Simple but effective trick. Is that, let me see. Let me sort here by simple but effective trick. Oh, I think that's the text one, right? DeJesus, simple but effective. I think that's the text one. Yeah, try this simple but effective text trick. Could you put going over the airbrush? Yeah, I think that it might be time to do another an updated version of that video for sure. That's still a technique that I apply all the time doing that text, and that is a lot of people have. I've gotten a lot of great feedback on that video. Like, a lot of people really genuinely like that trick because it's very subtle. I always think of that as like, if I have to make a piece that you want to be special, but not over the top crazy, like a rainbow gradient galaxy, just absolutely insane neon colors, like in your face. Like, if you kind of just want a really meaningful display piece, like something very commemorative, doing that text trick is very cool. Yeah, the maroon shoes with the backdrop lettering. Yep. See you later, sneaker guy. Before that, you said, I love your videos. I've been watching the last couple months, and you really inspired me to do custom shoes. Thank you for your contribution to the shoe game. Absolutely, man. Thank you for tuning in. Jacob follows up here with this prep work is sandy chew for about 6 minutes, a little bit of acetone with cotton balls, and I apply 5 layers of paint with 30 minutes of dry time. I hand paint. Yeah, so prep work on point, dry time, perfect. Could it be the finisher? Potentially. I would just go with like either the Liquid Kicks matte top coat or the new Angelus 4-coat. It could be that it's just flat out like the leather that you're working on. If, you know, like I said, those Nike E-Burnin' lows are, E-Burnin' lows have like just a really cheap leather. It could also have a lot to do with like how you walk. If you tend to crease all of your shoes, then there's a chance that you might need to get like a nice decreaser in there, one of those little inserts to prevent some of that creasing. Because if you're only getting paint cracking on your toe box, that might be your answer. That it's really just like really heavy creasing in how you walk, versus if you have paint cracking sort of in other spots, then, which I doubt you do because you're following good protocol essentially. I think it could be really cheap leather, 1, or 2, you just need like a decreaser in there to prevent that creasing from happening. Doggin Devil of Force says, I love watching a local guy from the Chicago area succeed. Now, Portillo's or the patio? Great question. It's funny. Every time somebody from out of town, somebody new says they have to go to Portillo's, like that's the first thing they have to do. And I actually think Portillo's is good. I just think it's not the first thing you have to have when you come to Chicago. So in a way, I think it's a little bit overrated, but the patio is the real deal, man. Everything is great from the patio. The patio, and anybody who's from out of town, patio's not that high up in places I need to visit in Chicago. You know what I mean? No, it's not going to rank on any, Yelp or top 10 food spots in Chicago, anything like that. But I would take the patio over Portillo's for sure. Absolutely. Bearded Bro Custom sends in a super chat. Thank you so much for that, buddy. Really looking forward to meeting you, and you crushed it on that mock-up, man. I just saw that before we went live, and that was absolutely killer. If that ends up being the winner, I'm excited to tackle those. I love a good Bel Air theme. Keep up the amazing work, and see you in Chicago. Yes, sir. We are just over, or just under a month away now. Today's the 25th, so going to be awesome. Oscar says the patio is overrated. If we have any moderators in here, please kick Oscar out for saying the patio is overrated. Mikey G here says, I'm just busting your balls, Oscar. Says, the next time you host a class, may I bring my own shoes? I want to illustrate tread-safe shoes so I can wear them when I can work as a chef again after I recover from my surgery. Absolutely. I've had a lot of people reach out and mention that they want to work on cleats during the class, another thing. And absolutely, like, our goal for the class is everybody who's coming to this is at a different, not necessarily a starting point, but they're at a different point in their journey. You know what I mean? So when we hosted our first one, we had some people who had never painted shoes before. We had some people who had been painting for 3 to 5 years. So we want to, and what we can do, is help everybody with where they're at in their journey. And so yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that I don't know if I've ever seen a custom tread safe shoe. Funny enough about it, I did some shoes for the Wahlberg family probably 5-6 years ago now. I want to say this was like 2015 or 16. And I don't know if their TV show is still on, called The Wahlburgers. But there's an episode, I can't think of the name of the episode, but I made shoes for all 3 brothers, some Jordan 1s, and they are like the main focus of the episode. The shoes, it's insane. They don't mention my name in the episode, though. They almost make it seem like Jordan sort of made these shoes for them, which is funny. I mean, I guess in a way you could take that as a compliment that, hey, these look like they could potentially be gifted from the Jordan teams themselves, but at the same time, you're like, man, it would have been nice to hear your name on that. And anyways, one of the brothers, I know Donnie and Mark, I don't know the other one's name, but I think he is sort of like the lead chef or the one behind that, and they give him the shoes too, and they're talking in the episode about getting all of the employees shoes, and he's just right away saying that something about OSHA certified and all this stuff, and how they can never wear Jordan 1s in the restaurant and all this stuff. It's pretty funny. But I was going to say, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a beer custom, I think you call them tread safe shoe, I believe. Yeah, I don't think I've seen any before, so that would be cool. Let's see here. Glenn Go Crazy says, are you going to do some cleats for Devontae Adams' Raiders debut? I am not. Devontae signed with Jordan Brand a couple years ago, so he gets weekly Ps from Jordan Brand. And then Mosh actually has a great connection with, some of the guys behind Jordan Brand. So whenever some of the high-tier athletes like Devontae Adams need a custom on top of their PEs for a big game or something like that, they go to Mosh. So Mosh has been doing some of Devontae's cleats here and there for probably the last couple years. So let's see here. Jacob says, Ebron and Lowe's are more of a flat shoe, and the leather feels cheaper than Air Force Ones. You might want to look up what they look like, kind of like a flat, maybe dressy Air Jordan 1 Low. Thanks for the advice. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Take care, Matthew. See you, bud. CB Geek says, is there a contest coming other than the one announced? Not for a bit. We just wrapped up the DCF Heritage contest. But we probably will do one more this year. I don't have a timeline yet. Potentially late summer is what I've said when some people have asked when the next one will be. So yeah, that's what I'm saying as of now. Vu Win says, what's a good cheap shoe to practice paint on? I recommend getting a pair of Air Force Ones and painting on them, getting a bunch of content out of it, and then acetoning the entire design off and doing it again. Like, I think that's the best thing that you could do, because sometimes the issue with if you were to buy a cheaper shoe is that the bad part that comes from it is not as many people like that shoe. Like, I think like a Nike Low Court Vision or these Nike eBurn Lows, I've certainly heard of them, but they're not going to get as much buzz as if you were to do, which if you're trying to go for, if you're trying to, get people to notice your work, Air Force Ones are the, most popular shoe out right now. So if you're painting a design on there, it's going to get a lot more love. If we're talking the same exact design, it's just going to get, people are just going to think it's cooler if it's on an Air Force One versus a, Court Vision Low. You know what I mean? And you can just, like I said, acetone all the paint off, and, it's not like you really need to even prep it that much either if you're just going to be painting right on top over and over. So that's what I recommend, and just keep doing it. And you know what I mean? You essentially have one shoe that you can just paint on top of as many times as you want. Casey Cruz says, is it season 4, episode 2, Do the Hustle? That is the name of the episode. Yeah, so if anybody wants to check that out, I think that the episodes are free on YouTube, like the full episodes. Could be wrong. Otherwise, I think that show came on like A&E, and I think you can create an account on there and watch the episodes for free or something like that. So yeah. Yep. Plato's Closet is good for used shoes. Absolutely. Yeah. Daniel says secondhand shoes. Absolutely. If you can go to thrift stores, anything like that, look around, and it's worth the shot. I don't know if I can acetone black color. You can. It'll just be a mess. And so sometimes what you need to do then is, so I have a pair of Air Force Ones here. If I were to paint if I painted it black on here, and, I was done and I wanted to acetone it off and do something again, it's going to create a mess, and it's going to stain the midsole. You know what I mean? If you get black acetone paint coming off onto the midsole, it's not going to be a white midsole anymore. So there's a few different things that you can do. Such as like dye the midsole, like give it an aged look. That's obviously super popular. And, if you needed, you could just spray the entire midsole black and make it look like you're painting on black Air Force Ones. But if you're just practicing and you're just trying to post some work, that's what I would do. You just got to make it work. Doggin says, I've been buying used Air Force Ones on eBay for about $20-$30 to practice on. Some are in great shape. A good cleaning, of course, using Angelus cleaning products. Sometimes they're in decent shape. Absolutely. There you go. Great move. I think it's Javelina Flips. Annie, I have a pair of vintage 1954 baby shoes, white booties. They were my friend's who passed away. Could those be made into a tribute to her? That'd be very cool. That's a great idea for that, for sure. Is it good? Kit Humphrey says, is it good to practice Air Force One fake for beginners? The issue with that is the two main issues is the surface is going to paint slightly differently. It's also going to prep slightly differently because the leather is much cheaper. So the experience of painting them is going to be slightly different. The way that paint interacts with the leather is going to be a little bit different. So does that make for the best practice? Not necessarily. And the other issue is that sometimes if you get a fake one, the shape might be a little funky. So are you even able to post it? Because if you post a fake Air Force One and people are able to spot it, then if all of a sudden you start asking for $500 for a custom shoe, they're going to be wondering if, are they even getting a legit product back? So those are the downsides to using a fake pair of Air Forces. Sammy Joe says, if you're never going to wear them, don't remove it, just paint over. That's absolutely an option also. there's certainly a threshold that you don't want to cross in which that if you did 10 designs right on top of there, then the paint itself might actually start to look thick on some of the areas. And if that were to happen, you probably, let's just say you ended up with the shoe that had 20 layers of paint on top, it's pretty unlikely that you would then be able to do things like put a vinyl stencil on there or tape off certain areas. You might just flat out get parts of the shoe that want to start peeling from that much paint. So, Flo the Goat says, how many shoes do you have to sell to become an LLC? There's not a minimum requirement. You could start an LLC, in your name before you ever paint your first shoe. But yeah, so I mean, there's certainly no set requirement. Like if you're in this for real and this is what you're about and you see it being something that you plan on doing for a while, yeah, absolutely look into getting yourself an LLC. The process is a lot less complicated than it sounds like. And yeah, great move to do. And will help you because all of the online apps now have stricter tax implications isn't the right word, but like now all of these apps require you to submit tax forms, like even Venmo, Cash App, all of them. So you can't just say, everybody pay me on Cash App and I'm just going to do everything under the table for the time being, So, and as a self-employed artist, you can write off a lot of stuff. How do I market myself? Just post a ton of content on social media. I mean, I know it's such a just a very general answer, but truly, like that needs to be almost as important as like creating the artwork itself. How are you going to market yourself? How much time are you going to spend creating content? That it's literally half the battle nowadays. Because as the space becomes more competitive, as attention spans get shorter and you're just fighting amongst other creators on these different platforms, you need to have good content to get noticed. So that is what I would say. Jalen here says, for the contest, do we need to save the image as a JPEG or PNG? Either one is totally fine. Will not make a difference. Brando says, I'm painting my first big order for a marketing company. 8 pairs of Alexander McQueen's at $580 retail. Would you skip the sanding and prep? Excellent news. Congratulations, Brando. That is super cool. I'm very curious to know what type of design you're doing. Who knows? Maybe you signed an NDA. You can't mention the company or whatever. But that company is doing damn good to order 8 $600 shoes. And the Alexander McQueen's are a phenomenal shoe to work on. I'm surprised. I didn't notice until I did an event last year at, it was at Saks Fifth Avenue, and they gifted me a pair of the Alexander McQueen's to work on. I had never even like held one in my hand before they actually sent me one. That is the heaviest shoe that I didn't know that those designer shoes were as heavy as they were. I worked on a pair of the Gucci, they're called like Ritones last year as a gift for somebody for Christmas, just over a year ago. Those designer shoes that are in that $600 range, those things are, I kid you not, like 4 times the weight of a pair of Air Force Ones. Like, I'm so used to holding a shoe like this every day that then all of a sudden you're holding something that's 4 times heavier. It's a very different experience. So when you're working on more premium leather, the sanding is not as important because the leather is a higher quality. So that's why you need to do so much prep and why I recommend sanding on all of these shoes that we're all working on. Jordan 1s, Air Force 1s. It's not high quality leather. This is not high quality leather. But when you work on, the Alexander McQueen's, that super nice smooth leather, it's not as important. If you still want to hit it with a high grit, I don't believe I did. I think I just acetoned it. But if you wanted to do a very, very fine grit, like a 1500, and that's it, that would be fine too. Were those the Pug Gucci customs you did? Yes. I want to say the shoe is called a Gucci Ritone. I might be saying that totally wrong, but it's something like that. Flo the Goat says, can you put the Air Forces as a tax write-off if you buy in bulks for supplies in my business? It's part of it. That's absolutely a part of your business. So that's absolutely a write-off. That's absolutely. There's so much more to it too, because you could rent part of your space from yourself. Get a good somebody who actually works, does a lot of self-employed people for in terms of an accountant that'll help you with all of that stuff. Costa, no, man, not if you're working on a really good quality leather. I would do, I believe the Gucci's I did sand. I don't think I did with the Alexander McQueen's, and I wore those a couple times, and I mean they've held up perfectly. I don't think I sanded them. I mean I did a video on making them, so it would be there, but I don't believe if I did sand them, it would have only started at like a 1500 grit. But if you're working on a great Italian leather, something like that, you do not need to. Heavier than a Jordan 6? Daniel, twice the weight of a Jordan 6. I mean, they literally feel like they have a weight in the sole. It's insane. It's insane. HSI here says, how do I price custom? Such as, how do I charge the customer in a way that I don't buy a shoe, do a custom, and they back out? Now I'm left with a custom shoe that I now have to sell to someone else. So, HSI, what I would recommend in that situation is never start anything without at least payment of the base shoe. At least, at absolute bare minimum. Even if you're only selling a completed Air Force One, if you were selling something like this for $200, okay? Now you could say the cost of the shoe is $100, tax, give or take. It's about half. You know what I mean? So a lot of people it's just common in business to do half payment up front, half upon completion. So if you did half up front, you at least get the cost of the shoe. But let's just say, for example, you were painting a Jordan 3 and you needed to get a base shoe that was $250, but you're only charging $350 total. I require full payment up front for almost anything, but if you were selling the completed custom for what did I just say? $350, but the base shoe costs you $250. Well, half of $350 would be $175. So if you only charged half up front, you wouldn't even be able to cover the cost of the base shoe if they left you hanging. So no matter what, you need to at least get the cost of the base shoe up front. I think that everybody should just charge full payment up front. I understand that would make some people walk away, potentially. They might not feel comfortable working with you for the first time. I feel there's some people, it's almost easier if you work with people longer from the artist end to trust that they'll pay. So if they only want to pay for half up front and half upon completion, then you'll be like, yeah, this person continues to bring me more business. That's okay. But if you're just meeting someone for the first time, yeah, like you hear a lot of horror stories of that happening. But if you require full payment up front, then that's not an issue from your end. So yes, if somebody wanted to order an Air Force One and you charge $200 and they said, well, can I just pay when it's done? I absolutely would not begin without some form of payment. Patrick Willis says, would you be open to trying solar color dust products for the 200K sub challenge? Absolutely. What's so funny is I have been saying for years on YouTube, I need to do a video using solar color dust products. And that would be funny. That I hope somebody does do something really cool with that, because yeah, I have not done that. I have still not used theirs because I just haven't had a theme or an order or a commission pop up where it's like, yeah, I need a color shifting theme here or something like that. So that's a good one. Superman Lover says, what grid sandpaper you recommend to use for most pairs of customs? 400, 800, and 1500. Yep. Carl Pendle says, I've been using a Lazy Susan, a cake decorating turntable, and saves a ton of time while customizing. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. What's an alternative to Procreate that's free? I think a free alternative is, I believe, in the Photos app itself. I think the app is called Markup, which is, I believe, like if you screenshot, I'm not sure if it's the same on iPad, but if you screenshot on iPhone, then a little icon, your photo pops up in the corner, you can click it, and then there's essentially like marker tools and stuff like that you could draw on top. So that's one, but Procreate's only $10. Like it's absolutely worth the investment. But like a free computer version that I know would be photopea.com, and I believe Autodesk. Autodesk is who creates like AutoCAD. That's like the main software that architects use. I believe they have an app called Sketchbook, and I want to say that's free. And I believe you would be able to do a lot of cool stuff with that. Jacob says, I sold a pair of shoes that didn't crack, LOL, and charged $120. $90 shoe. Is that too much or too little for custom shoes since I am just starting? Thanks. Like when you're just starting, it's just not about the money when you're starting. First, you need to prove that there's a demand for your artwork. And you have to prove that you can market yourself and things like that. So it's just not important. It is like, now if the question was, I sell my custom shoes for $120 and the base shoes cost me $90. So I made $30 profit. Is that sustainable, or can I build a business with that? The answer is 100% absolutely not. For $30 profit, let's just say it only took you 3 hours. That's still you're technically only kind of making, if you worked out an hourly wage, $10 an hour, and that doesn't even account for your materials. You know what I mean? That doesn't account for the time that you need to spend creating content and things like that. So is that a long-term sustainable thing? Absolutely not. But just starting out, it's not about the money. First, you need to prove there's a demand for your product. You need to get experience under your belt. So if you just charged your friend $120, they wanted to support you, awesome. Cool. What is the best iPad to use for Procreate? I mean, the iPads just keep getting better and better and better. Literally anyone is fine. I don't have one of the high-end iPads. I believe I have a 2017. It's not even a Pro model, so it still has the home button. It's not one of the huge. I think are they 13 inches or 12.9 inches, I believe. So I have like the 9.7 one. So it was only like the $250, $300 option. I haven't upgraded in years. I want to one of the nicer Pro model ones, and they've really upgraded the chips over the last couple years since Apple started making their own chips instead of Intel now. They're incredible. But I can still totally run any of those apps or things like that. I think Autodesk is free for students only. Okay, might be. Might be. Is Procreate a one-time purchase or renting a software type deal? Procreate's a one-time purchase for $9.99. I believe it's still $9.99. I did a live painting for South by Southwest. Very cool, Brando. Man, you're doing some cool stuff. I'm going to have to check out some of your work. I don't think I've ever even seen you pop in. I don't recognize your name popping into any of these live chats. So if you're first time here, welcome, man. I definitely want to see some of your stuff. What is a good price point to charge the companies for your time? So, a lot of times, when doing events, I've priced this stuff out a lot with, one of my former business partners for DeJesus Custom Footwear is this guy, Chris, who's going to be at the event. He's been in a few videos. I've talked about it a bunch of times. But I started DeJesus Customs when I was still in college. And then I met him after about 4 years. And he had just graduated college at Indiana, got his degree in business, and wanted to help take the business to the next level. He happened to be essentially through like a family ties connection. So we started together and we worked together, really growing the business for a couple years. And then he created another business called Boosted Stripes, which is an adhesive for Adidas Ultra Boost. And he's into plenty of other shoes now. And just last year he's on Nike shoes now. So you can get like vinyl that's cut out for your Nike swoosh, and it's removable. So you can keep it on there for a month or 2 or 3 and then swap it out for something else. And it's essentially still like a shoe customization, but for, he wanted to create something that was a little bit more obtainable for anybody and everybody. So he sells these kits for like $15 that people can change the colors of their stripes on their Ultra Boost. That's what the company really started as. But we've done a ton of events together, and typically you just want to start to develop like a day rate for yourself. So if you're going to be doing a painting, let's say they have you there for 8 hours, maybe they have you there for 12 hours. They might ask you to be there for a weekend, multiple days. You just want to develop a day rate. You know what I mean? And that might be $2,500. That might be $5,000 or something like that. So when I do events, usually I'll have like a day rate. If company wants me to come out and do like a, some live painting or something like that. And, just quite frankly, a lot of times they have good budgets. You know what I mean? So don't undersell yourself, and don't just think, okay, I'm going to charge, $30 an hour or something like that. Your time is worth more than $30 an hour if you're being invited to paint at South by Southwest. So let's just say you were doing 8 hours. I would certainly say absolutely at the minimum that you should have a $2,500 day rate. At the bare minimum, if they invited you to paint there. Let's see. Carl Pendle says, I've seen these specialist sewing machines for shoes, but they look very specialist and expensive. Any other options? I don't do shoemaking, so I'm not really familiar with all of the different sewing machines options out there. So unfortunately, I'm the wrong person to ask for that one. But yes, they are absolutely not cheap. Brando says, nice, one day for a 4-hour slot. Thanks so much, bro. Oh, very cool. Very cool. So, if that's, essentially they'll call that a half day most of the time, and you don't necessarily have to do just half of your, your $2,500 day rate. If you're doing a 4-hour day, $1,500, you know what I mean? That's good compensation for your time. But yeah, man, good for you. Good for you. Is Photoshop Desktop also one-time purchase? No, it is not anymore. Photoshop used to be a one-time purchase, and you would purchase like the current year of the app, or like the version. So you would purchase like Photoshop version 6, and you would pay $300, and you wouldn't get the upgrades. Now you pay for the subscription, and you get all of the updates. So the Adobe Suite, I believe the full suite, I want to say, is $50 a month. Could be wrong. I believe if you're a student, you can get it for $20 a month, the full suite. So you can get Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere, Rush, Lightroom, all of them. I think you can create a student email, even if you're not a student, and still get it. So that is 1,000,000% worth the money. Should I upgrade to a camera or keep using iPhone 13? Keep using iPhone 13 unless you're ready to buy a $1,000 plus camera is what I would recommend, because you currently have a $1,000 phone in your hand and it has a really damn good camera. Graffiti Jester says, any advice on how to get people interested in your work? I feel like I've been trying for a while and I'm getting burnt out from it. What a great question. And I feel like just literally forever, for the duration of the shoe customizing space, me being here on YouTube, that'll just be like one of the most prominent questions. And I just think that my current answer today, my response to that, any advice on how to get people interested in your work? So I just feel like I can totally relate, and that it feels like you're saying, I feel like more people should notice my work. I feel like my work is good enough to be noticed by more people, and it's not. So essentially, what could be going on is you might be a talented enough artist that your work deserves to be noticed by more people. Like, it can quite literally come down to you're just not fully playing the game of social media. And sometimes you can absolutely get lucky in that You have an artwork style distinct enough that you just happen to sort of pop off. It just happens to be like a perfect storm of when you post and how you post that people start to recognize your work, and you just slowly build up. But other times you just have to be in it for the long haul, and it just comes down to putting out, like, feel like I've been trying for a while and I'm getting burnt out from it. Yeah, like you're not getting the results you want. So you need to just ask yourself, okay, what can I do different? You know what I mean? And I just think most of the time that answer comes down to, forgive me, my nose is super itchy today. It comes down to, what are you doing in terms of content? You know what I mean? Of course, that's my answer. But what more can you be doing in terms of content? Are you currently posting like any types of YouTube videos? Are you posting a lot on TikTok? Are you posting, where are you doing all your posting? You know what I mean? Are you just dedicating all your time to Instagram and none of the other platforms? What are you doing in terms of trying to promote your work potentially in your area and things like that? Like, it's just sometimes we as artists, 100% know what this feels like. You believe in your work enough that you poured your soul into it, and then you're like, this should get noticed because I love it. You know what I mean? I have a connection to this and it should get noticed, but it doesn't stop there. Now it's up to you. Like, the ball's still in your court on how do you get noticed, you know? Because the work can be there, the talent might be there, but now it's about marketing yourself. And so much of this craft, the people that are able to make it and turn this into a long-term career and things like that, they figure that out. They learn how they're going to market themselves. They learn how they're going to constantly stay busy and things like that. So, yeah, sometimes it's just a matter of trying some new things with your content is probably what is most likely needed here. It feels like that sounds like my answer today to that question. Sammy Joe here says, what does your work offer to other people? When you like art, it's because you connect to it. You have to give people something to connect to. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I totally agree with that. And like, part of that comes down to too, like, depending on, you know, what you're doing in terms of your content. Like, if you're literally just sharing completed photos of your shoes, also, so much of it comes down to how do then people connect to that? And I think the people that, when I think of the people who are, you know, the top tier customizers, potentially even before I think of the work, I sort of think of the person, because the person is also marketing themselves. So, you know, somebody like, you know, Mosh, I mean, he does a great job marketing himself. He does like a lot of lives. He's on YouTube. He's constantly, you know, posting videos and all this type of stuff. So, and I think it's just easy for artists to just want to post their work and not really anything about themselves, but it's just harder for people to relate to you in that way, for sure. I saw, who asked this one? Somebody said, how much it was or is your course? This one was $2,000 for this one. Glenn Go Crazy asked that one. And we provide absolutely everything. 2 pairs of shoes, an insane customizer kit, just an insane amount of supplies. It's going to be so dope. It's going to be such a great time. Yep. Sammy Joe says, why are they coming to you instead of someone else? Absolutely. I mean, this is it's becoming like a crowded space isn't even necessarily the right word, but there's always new customizers who are super talented popping up. And there's always going to be somebody, there's always, no matter what, going to be somebody willing to do it cheaper. So you need to give them a reason to, choose you over someone else. And that's going to be because they connect with you and your story, you know? Krishan Thompson says, what inspired you to start customizing shoes? I was a broke college student in architecture school at the LeBron South Beach 8s released. I couldn't afford them. Really wanted them. I saw some other people painting shoes online, and then I specifically saw El Capi paint a pair of Jordan 6s to look like the South Beach LeBron 8s with that really cool teal and pink colorway. And so I said, you know what, let me go ahead and grab an old pair of shoes and try that too. And that's how it started for me. Brother Jay says, "Hey, do you ever have commissions that you refused because of what they asked?" Yeah, not particularly like horror stories. Like they wanted me to paint, something just that I didn't like morally agree with or something like that. But I just have like a ton of inquiries of people asking me to do like whether it's somebody else's work or something that isn't at all my style, like maybe they just want something that's too simple, and then I'll just in that event I'll always just recommend somebody else, you know what I mean? If I know that, hey, this is this artist who's really great at color blocking, go to them. Or if they wanted something that's, I don't know, whatever the case might be, there's plenty of other great artists that I can point you out to, because for me to want to take it on, I certainly want it to be something that I want to do. And there's certainly themes that, I don't necessarily connect with and things like that. Flo the Goat says, is giving free shoes away a good way to market yourself to start off? I 100% believe it is. We have, I mean, if you look at the title of this video, I'm still hosting giveaways at 200,000 subscribers here on YouTube. And I think that every milestone early on in our YouTube career, like 1,000 subscribers, 2,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers, 10,000, 20,000, 25,000, we gave away mostly shoes. Sometimes it would be something else. But yeah, we've hosted, I've probably hosted somewhere around, I don't know, just in the last like 3-4 years being on YouTube, probably around 10 giveaways or so of just shoes. So yeah, I certainly think it can be. And then you just have to tell yourself, okay, what am I going to get out of this? Is my goal to, well, hopefully it works that people will tag people in the comments and then they'll follow me. Or no, like sometimes you need to control your own narrative, and that like I'm doing this giveaway here where people design a mock-up that then I'll try to bring to life. Well, I'm going to get some really cool content out of that because I get to show people the struggle and the journey of me creating someone else's design, which is no easy task. And then I get to create just a really cool design that I didn't necessarily come up with. So it's going to be something hopefully out of the ordinary from my typical work. And yeah, like, so in a way, I'm hosting the giveaway, but it's not just, oh, I hope people like tag people in the comments and I'm going to gain new followers and new customers that way. Like, no, I'm going to control my own narrative in that I'm going to create this really cool content, and then that's going to live on YouTube, and people will still be watching these videos years down the line. Like, that's why I can say it till I'm black and blue in the face that YouTube is unlike any other platform, and that your videos and your content lives on past today. Every other platform, Instagram, Facebook, basically, TikTok, yeah, you have a feed, but not that often are people going back to your feed, whereas for years, people will be watching your YouTube videos, especially depending on how what you do, but especially like sort of the way that we did a lot of stuff on YouTube is sometimes we would title certain videos that like, this might not be the most enticing clickbait title today, but this is something that people are going to continue to search for years down the road. One of the first videos we did on YouTube was a pair of Bape camo Vans, and like that's still something people are typing in the search bar on YouTube today. We created the video like 4 years ago, or if there's plenty of videos where we put like how to airbrush a gradient. People are going to be typing that in the YouTube search bar for the rest of forever. You know what I mean? But if you just post that on Instagram, TikTok, or anything like that, it's cool for the day. And then it's sort of moved on past, Kyle says, I'd love you to do another stencil video. Love the Marilyn Monroe one, but still can't get my head around all the layers. Yeah, that's something that I know that some people said, like, that video, it's hard when you're making us incredibly that video's 30 minutes long. It started as an hour long. We chopped a lot out, and that might have something to do with it. You know what I mean? But when you're creating an incredibly detailed tutorial like that, it's probably something that could be, a 2-hour thing. But especially because it takes, I don't know, that logo itself probably took me 10 hours to do. So condensing that into a 30-minute teaching thing isn't easy, but hopefully I'll be able to break things down even better this time around and make it even more understandable. Your older videos slap. I love them. Yeah, it's funny looking back on some, how much more my hands move. They're out of control. One of my all-time favorite YouTube comments, I think it's our second most viewed video. It has like 1.2 million views. It's the Gucci Drip Air Force Ones. What's funny about that too, since we just talked about giveaways, in the title of that video, I put "We're giving these away," and I know that helped get more traction on it. Like the top comment on there that has the most likes, I think it has a couple thousands like, it says like he was Millie rocking through this entire video, which is probably one of my favorite comments that we've ever gotten here on YouTube. Hilarious. So I don't know. I've tried to tone it back a little bit, but when Jason and I were in a spare bedroom at my parents' house, and I filmed all of the video standing. And when you're standing and talking, I felt even weirder just with my hands by my side. Whereas now, like if I'm filming at a table, I still use my hands a lot, but it's a little bit easier to sort of, feels a little more natural to sort of just keep your hands on the table. It's not as crazy. But when you're standing, it's like impossible to not use your hands. And it's so funny because Jason never once was like, hey, what's up? Why do your hands move so much? Or can you tone it down or something like that? He never corrected me. So yeah, that's funny. Jalen says, will we be voting for the designs during the contest? Yes. So the plan is for that. I'm going to pick, there's going to be 2 winners. So what's going to happen is I'm going to pick my flat out favorite. I'm going to look at all the designs and say, I want to paint that one right there. And then what I'm going to do is then pick what I believe are the next best 8. So the top, 9 shoes potentially have a chance of being made, because I'm going to pick one and then the following 8. Those 8 are then going to go into a bracket, and those are going to be voted on our Instagram. So make sure you're following us on Instagram if you're not already, at DeJesus Custom Footwear, and that's where we will be doing that bracket, and it'll just be single elimination. I don't know how I'm going to seed everything. I'll just do it random. I'm not going to say this one's the 1 seed and this one's the 8 seed. So I'll just have it random, and you guys will vote on which one I make next. So that'll be super cool, because I don't know what's coming necessarily, and I don't have a say. So who knows? You guys might just pick the most difficult one, probably. Okay, so we'll go. We got to a couple more minutes here, and then we are going to wrap it up for today. Patrick Willis says, can we submit more than one design? Absolutely, yep. You can download the file from the description. There's a JPEG and a Photoshop file, works in Procreate also. And then just email us your submission, contact@dejesusinc.com. Okay, that seems like a good place to end now, actually. I got to get going. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on another episode of DCF Live. I think it's been almost a month since I did one of these, but we had a lot of stuff leading up to the course and whatnot. So super excited that we got that done. And I should be back next week. I think we'll be doing another one next Friday. And because I certainly want to get more people talking, get more people awareness around the design contest and stuff. So super excited to see what comes with that. Hopefully everybody has a great, safe, happy, healthy weekend, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.